Chapter 21. Shattered Trust. The morning felt heavier than usual. The kind of heavy that sat on Aria's chest and refused to move, even after 2 cups of bitter coffee and a long shower that should have rinsed the unease away. Liam's text still sat unanswered on her phone. "We need to talk." She almost ignored it. Almost. But the look on his face yesterday, that twitch of guilt in his eyes when he told her, "Maybe Lucien's not who you think he is," it wouldn't stop replaying in her head. So, when he showed up outside the diner before her shift, she didn't turn him away. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept, dark circles dragging down his face. He shoved his hands in his pockets, glancing around like he was afraid someone might see them talking. "Aria," he started, voice low. "You've got to be careful." "I'm always careful," she replied flatly, adjusting her blouse. "What's this really about, Liam?" He hesitated, then sighed. "You think I don't see it? The way he looks at you. The way you've started looking at him. That man, Lucien Sterling. He's not the savior you think he is." Aria crossed her arms, forcing a laugh that sounded thinner than she meant it to. "You sound like a jealous ex." Liam's jaw tightened. "You think I'd risk saying this if it wasn't real? He's hiding things, Aria. Big things. Then tell me what you know." He faltered, eyes darting away. "It's complicated. Try me." The silence stretched too long. Long enough for her to see it. The flicker of shame, the hesitation. Something inside her twisted. "Liam," she whispered, stepping closer. "Did you do something?" He swallowed hard. "I was trying to protect you." Her heart dropped. "Protect me? From what? From Lucien or from yourself?" He flinched, and that was all she needed. It hit her like a slow, suffocating wave. The missing pieces, the way Vivien's words always found her at the worst moments, how Liam always seemed to echo them after. The realization left her cold. "You've been talking to her," Aria said softly. "Vivien." Liam's silence was an admission. Her hand trembled as she pulled off her apron. "You of all people, Liam. After everything we've been through." "It's not what you think," he said quickly, stepping toward her. "She had leverage, okay? She knows things about my debt. I didn't tell her anything that could hurt you, I swear. I just kept her calm." Aria's eyes glistened, but her voice was steel. "You let her use you. And in doing that, you let her use me." He reached for her arm, but she jerked back like his touch burned. "Aria, please. I was trying to stop her from going after you." "No," she whispered. "You were trying to save yourself." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The diner buzzed quietly behind them. Laughter, coffee machines, the world moving on as if hers hadn't just cracked open. Finally, she said, "Whatever you think you're protecting me from, I'll find out myself." And before he could say another word, she walked away. The Sterling Tower's mirrored glass gleamed under the noon sun as Aria swiped her badge and stepped inside. Every footstep echoed sharper than usual, each one feeding the pulse of anger and confusion in her chest. Lucien hadn't looked at her properly in days. Not since that night they'd broken every unspoken rule between them. He'd been colder, distracted, like part of him was already elsewhere. When she entered his office, he was at the window, phone pressed to his ear. His posture was sharp, the perfect image of composure. "Yes," he said curtly. "Move the meeting." "No, not today." His gaze shifted as he saw her reflection in the glass, and for a second, something unguarded flickered across his face before he masked it. "Aria," he said, turning. "I didn't expect you this early." She forced a neutral tone. "You said we needed to finalize the investor summary." He nodded, gesturing toward the table. "Right. The file's in the second drawer." Her pulse spiked. The drawer. The same one from that night. The one he'd practically lunged across the room to stop her from opening. She hesitated, then bent to pull it open. Just paperwork. Contracts, invoices, reports. Nothing unusual. But she noticed something else. A subtle indentation in the wood where a hidden compartment met the edge. Lucien must have seen her notice, because his voice came out sharper than intended. Leave it. I'll get it. Aria froze. You don't trust me to touch your files now? That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean, Lucien? His eyes darkened, the muscle in his jaw tightening. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. He exhaled, stepping closer. Too close. Aria, I'm trying to protect you. She almost laughed, the same words Liam had used hours ago. From what? She asked softly. From the truth. Their eyes locked, the silence thick with all the things neither could say. And in that moment she saw it, the flicker of guilt buried beneath his controlled calm. Lucien, she whispered, if there's something you're hiding, I deserve to know. He hesitated for half a breath too long. Then, you don't. It was final, sharp cutting. Something inside her cracked. She straightened, gathering the documents from the table with trembling fingers. Then maybe I've been wasting my time. Aria! But she was already walking out. That night, the city was drenched in rain, the streets glittering under streetlights. Aria sat in her small apartment, staring at the storm outside, her thoughts spinning. Liam's guilt. Vivien's warnings. Lucien's lies. They all connected somehow. She paced the room, running through every memory. The way Lucien's tone would change when certain names came up, the way Vivien's threats always carried something more personal than business rivalry. And the drawer. Always that drawer. She didn't want to believe it, but the seed was planted. And once planted, suspicion grew like ivy. Slow, quiet, suffocating everything it touched. By midnight she made up her mind. She would go back. She would find out what Lucien had been hiding, whatever it was, no matter the cost. The storm outside deepened as thunder rolled across the skyline. She stood at the window, eyes burning with a kind of determination born from heartbreak. She whispered to herself, voice trembling but certain. If everyone's so desperate to protect me from the truth, maybe it's time I stop letting them. Chapter 22. The file uncovered. The Sterling Tower was nearly empty by the time Aria slipped inside. Rain still clung to her hair, droplets sliding down her temple as she crossed the marble lobby. The night guard gave her a brief nod. He'd grown used to her late hours, assuming dedication was what drove her. He didn't know tonight was about something else entirely. She told herself it wasn't breaking in. She had her badge, her position, her right to be there. But her heartbeat disagreed. Sharp, erratic, echoing in her ears as the elevator climbed to the top floor. Lucien's office was dark except for the dim city lights spilling through the glass wall. Everything was painfully familiar. The scent of his cologne still lingered in the air, faint traces of their last shared night imprinted in the room like ghosts. She hesitated at the doorway. For a fleeting moment she imagined him there, sleeves rolled, jaw tense, eyes softening only when they met hers. She nearly turned back. But then she remembered Liam's trembling words. Vivien's smile. Lucien's evasive silence. No more half-truths. Aria stepped inside and locked the door behind her. The desk gleamed under the city glow, every surface meticulously arranged. Except the drawer, that drawer. Her gaze locked on it instantly, her pulse thundering as she approached. Her hands trembled as she knelt and slid it open. Papers. Contracts. Nothing unusual. But she'd seen that faint ridge last time, a barely perceptible line of wood that didn't quite match. She pressed against it gently, fingers feeling for a latch. A soft click echoed in the quiet. The false bottom lifted. Inside lay a manila folder, thick with documents. Her name was scrawled on the corner in Lucien's unmistakable handwriting. Aria Cole. Her breath caught. For a moment she simply stared, her stomach tightening. Then she forced herself to open it. The first page was a legal document. Transfer of shares. Cole Holdings Sterling Corporation. Her father's name was there. Daniel Cole. Aria's throat tightened as she flipped through the pages. Financial records, acquisition summaries, notarized signatures. Then newspaper clippings. An old article about her father's death in a freak accident. Another about Sterling Corp's sudden board reshuffle right after. And then the one that broke her. Confidential memorandum. Pending inheritance. 35% of Sterling Corp shares under custody of minor beneficiary, Aria Cole. Her knees nearly gave out. She pressed a hand over her mouth, tears stinging her eyes as realization sank in. Her father had owned part of Sterling Corp. Her father hadn't just been a nobody. He'd been silenced out of the company he helped build, and Lucien had known. There were notes in his handwriting. Keep her away from Vivien. Do not disclose until confirmation. She doesn't know. Name. Her father. Her entire life, reduced to a file in the drawer of the man she'd trusted most. The man she'd slept with. The man who'd looked her in the eye and said, "You don't need to know." The air in her lungs turned to fire. Her chest ached with betrayal so sharp it almost made her dizzy. The sound of footsteps in the hallway snapped her out of it. Lucien's voice, low, calm, tired. He was on the phone, drawing closer. "Tell the board we'll finalize it in the morning." "No, I'll review the numbers myself." Panic surged. Aria gathered the papers, fumbling to shove them back into the folder. But then her anger caught up to her. Slow, seething, unstoppable. Why hide it? Why protect him? She left the file open on the desk. When Lucien entered, he froze. The moment stretched long and thin between them. His eyes flicked from the open drawer, to the file, to her. "Aria," he said carefully. His voice was soft, but there was steel beneath. "What are you doing here?" Her laugh was hollow. "You tell me." Lucien's expression darkened as he took a step forward. "You shouldn't be here. And you shouldn't have this," she snapped, slamming her hand on the file. "You shouldn't have my father's life locked in a drawer like it's one of your damn projects." He didn't answer right away. Just looked at her, jaw tight, guilt flickering in his eyes. "How long?" she demanded. "How long have you known who I am? Aria, answer me." His voice came low, controlled. "Since the day you walked into my office." Her breath caught, 1,000 memories crashing through her mind. His curiosity, his protectiveness, the way he'd looked at her that first day. She thought it was attraction. It was knowledge. "You knew," she whispered. "All this time you knew who I was. What I was. I didn't tell you because..." "Because what?" she spat. "Because you wanted to protect me. Or because you wanted to keep me under control." His silence said everything she feared. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. "You used me, Lucien." "I didn't." He stepped closer, his voice breaking with restraint. "I was trying to protect you from Vivien. You have no idea what she's capable of." "I don't care what she's capable of," Aria snapped. "You looked me in the eyes and lied to me. Every moment, every kiss was built on a lie." Lucien's composure finally cracked. "You think it was a lie?" His voice rose, fierce and raw. "You think I didn't feel every damn thing between us? I was trying to give you time, trying to find a way to tell you without destroying what we had." "It's already destroyed," she whispered. He reached for her arm, but she stepped back, shaking her head. Her heart hurt too much to bear his touch. "I trusted you," she said quietly. "More than I've ever trusted anyone. And you turned me into a secret." Lucien's jaw clenched. "Aria, listen to me." But she was already moving toward the door. He called after her, voice breaking this time. "Aria, please. Don't walk away." She paused at the threshold, rain still streaking the glass behind him. The city lights carved his silhouette in gold and shadow. Powerful, beautiful, broken. She wanted to look back. He didn't. The door slammed behind her, echoing like a gunshot. Lucien stood motionless, the sound reverberating through the hollow office. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to do. The open file on his desk stared back at him, a silent accusation. He pressed a hand to his chest, where her voice still lingered. "You turned me into a secret." He sank into his chair, running a hand through his hair, eyes burning. For a long time he said nothing. Finally, he whispered to the empty room. I was trying to protect you, not lose you. But the rain outside drowned out the words, carrying them away into the night. Aria steps out into the storm, tears mixing with rain as she walks away from Sterling Tower. Her expression hardens, not just hurt now but something sharper. She's done being protected. She's ready to fight back. And the war between her and Lucien Sterling has just begun. Chapter 23: Vivien's Strike. The rain hadn't stopped. It came down in relentless sheets, washing the city in silver and shadow. Aria stood under a streetlight, drenched, her clothes plastered to her skin. Her heart beating so fast it hurt to breathe. She'd walked for blocks without knowing where she was going. Just away. Away from Lucien, away from Sterling Tower, away from the truth that felt too big to hold. Her mind replayed everything. His silence, the file, her father's name, the way he'd said, I was trying to protect you. Protect her from what? From the truth. From himself. Her chest constricted. She was so tired of people deciding what was best for her. A sleek black car slowed beside the curb, the tinted window rolling down with a soft hum. Aria, a woman's voice called. Smooth, elegant, almost warm. Get in. You'll catch your death out here. Aria froze. Vivien Sterling. Course. The woman stepped out instead, a vision in tailored black, her umbrella snapping open with a practiced flick. Her diamonds glimmered in the rainlight, untouched by weather, by guilt, by anything human. Come now, Vivien said gently. You look like a drowned kitten. I promise I won't bite. Aria almost laughed. The woman who'd spent weeks looking down her nose at her now sounded motherly. Still, the cold was cutting through her bones. And Vivien's calmness was disarming. Dangerously so. Against her better judgment, Aria followed her into the car. Inside, warmth enveloped her. Leather seats, soft lighting, the faint scent of roses. Vivien handed her a silk handkerchief. You'll ruin my seats if you keep dripping like that. Aria didn't respond. She was trembling too hard, partly from cold, mostly from fury. Vivien studied her, eyes sharp and assessing. So, she murmured, you finally opened the drawer. Aria stiffened. You knew. Of course I knew, Vivien said smoothly. Lucien never could keep a secret properly. I told him months ago that file would ruin him, but he never listens. Aria's pulse hammered. He said he was trying to protect me. Protect you? Vivien's laugh was quiet and cruel. Oh, darling, is that what he told you? Aria turned toward her, anger flaring. What do you know about it? More than you think. Vivien leaned forward, her voice dropping into something soft and serpentine. Do you know how your father died? Aria's heart clenched. It was an accident. The papers say what Sterling money told them to, Vivien interrupted. Daniel Cole was many things, but careless wasn't one of them. The car hummed along the wet streets, raindrops blurring the world outside. Aria's breath came faster, each word from Vivien slicing through her defenses. What are you saying? She whispered. Vivien folded her hands neatly on her lap. I'm saying Lucien's father wanted your father out. Daniel Cole started asking questions about hidden acquisitions, offshore accounts, votes that didn't add up. So one day, his car went off a bridge. Her gaze flicked to Aria's face, savoring the flicker of horror there. And when the investigation came up empty, guess who benefited most from his silence? Aria shook her head. You're lying. Vivien smiled faintly. If only I were. But Lucien knew all of it. He was handed that file the moment he took over Sterling Corporation. He was told to keep you quiet, keep you docile before you learned what you were owed. That's not true, Aria said, though her voice wavered. Vivien tilted her head. Isn't it? Tell me, Aria, how long did he wait before telling you who you were? How long did he let you sit beside him, play his little assistant, while he decided when you were ready for the truth? Aria's throat burned. She wanted to defend him. to shout that Vivien was twisting things. But every word struck at something she couldn't ignore. The timing, the secrets, the drawer. Vivien leaned closer, her tone almost kind. I warned him, you know. I told him you'd find out eventually. That you'd turn on him just like your father did. But he wouldn't listen. Aria's jaw trembled. You're trying to turn me against him. I don't need to. Vivien's eyes gleamed. He's already done that himself. The car stopped in front of Aria's apartment building. For a moment, neither woman moved. Vivien reached out, tucking a strand of wet hair behind Aria's ear like a mother comforting a child. You remind me of him, she murmured. Your father. Brave. Stubborn. And just naive enough to think love can survive business. Aria recoiled at the touch. Don't. Vivien smiled again, small, satisfied. You'll see the truth soon enough. When you do, remember who tried to warn you. Aria pushed the door open, stumbling out into the rain without another word. The door shut behind her with a soft thunk, leaving Vivien alone in the car. Through the window, she watched Aria run into the building. Heartbroken, furious, spiraling. Poor girl, Vivien murmured. Just like her father. She lifted her phone, dialing without looking. It's done, she said. She won't forgive him now. Upstairs, Aria stood motionless in her tiny apartment. Her wet clothes clung to her, her hair dripping onto the worn carpet. Her reflection stared back from the window, eyes red, lips trembling. Lucien's voice replayed in her head. Desperate, sincere. I was trying to protect you. Then Vivien's voice overlapped, cold and calm. He was told to keep you docile, just like your father. Her heart felt split down the middle. She dropped to her knees, pressing her hands over her face, and for the first time since leaving the tower, she let herself cry. The tears came hard and fast, shaking her shoulders, washing away the last traces of certainty she had. Who was lying? Who was telling the truth? Was Lucien really part of the machine that had destroyed her father's life? Or was Vivien spinning a new web around her? She didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore. When the sobs finally subsided, she sat back against the wall, staring blankly at the flickering light overhead. Who can I trust? She whispered to the empty room. The only answer was the steady drum of rain against the glass. Down below, in the shadows across the street, a dark car lingered longer than it should have. Inside, a figure watched the lit window where Aria sat crying, unmoving, unreadable. Then the engine started, and the car rolled silently away into the night. Whether it was Lucien or someone else entirely, Aria would soon find out. Chapter 24. Lovers torn apart. The rain had stopped by morning, but the city still felt grey, hungover from the storm. Aria hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy, her hair a mess, and her heart heavier than she could carry. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lucien's face. The softness in his gaze when he whispered her name. The quiet guilt he thought she didn't notice. And now, Vivien's words slicing through the memory like glass. He was told to keep you quiet. Keep you docile. Just like your father. By the time Lucien found her, she'd already decided what she needed to do. End it before she drowned in someone else's lies again. The knock came sharp against her apartment door. Once, then twice harder. She froze. She didn't have to ask who it was. Aria. Lucien's voice came through, rougher than usual. Please. Open the door. Her chest tightened. For a moment, she thought of ignoring him. But she knew Lucien. He'd wait all day if he had to. With a shaky breath, she opened the door. Lucien stood there, hair disheveled, eyes dark with worry. His tie gone, shirt half untucked like he hadn't slept either. The storm outside had left its mark on both of them. Where were you? He demanded softly. I searched half the city. She met his eyes, cold and steady. You should have searched your conscience first. He flinched. Aria! Don't! Her voice cracked. Don't call me like that. Not after everything. He stepped closer, but she took a step back, holding up a hand like a shield. Stay where you are. Lucien stopped, jaw tight. His usual composure gone. You read the file. You mean the one with my father's shares? My inheritance. The one you've known about for God knows how long. Her words dripped acid. Yeah. I read it. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Lucien? Because from where I stand, it looks like you've been playing savior while keeping me in the dark. His eyes darkened. I was trying to protect you. Aria laughed bitterly. There it is again. Protect me. That's what everyone says before they betray me. Aria, listen. No, you listen, she snapped. I spent weeks thinking you actually saw me. Not as some fragile girl, not as someone who needed saving, but as your equal. I thought what we had meant something real. But all along you were part of it. Part of them. Lucien's voice broke. I was never part of that. Then why hide it, she demanded. Why let me walk into your life blind? You could have told me. You should have told me. He hesitated just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. That pause said everything. You don't trust me, she whispered. You never did. I do. More than anyone. His voice was hoarse now. I was scared, Aria. The truth, what it means, it could have destroyed you. Destroyed me, she echoed. You think finding out what's mine would destroy me? No, Lucien. What's destroying me is realizing you decided that for me. He reached for her hand instinctively, but she pulled away. I wanted to tell you, he said. Every day I wanted to. But once I did, there'd be no going back. You'd see the company for what it really is, for what my father did, for what Vivien is still doing. At the mention of Vivien, Aria's expression hardened. Oh, I've seen what Vivien is doing. She told me everything. Lucien went still. What did she say? Aria swallowed, her throat tight. That you knew what happened to my father. That your family had something to do with it. That you kept me close to make sure I stayed quiet. His jaw clenched. She's lying. Is she? Aria's voice shook. Because she didn't sound like she was guessing. She knew details, Lucien. The same ones in that file. Lucien's face darkened with anger. Not at her, but at the realization of what Vivien had done. She's twisting it. You have to believe me. I want to, Aria whispered. God, I want to. But every time I look at you, I can't tell where the truth ends and the lies begin. He took another step forward. Then let me prove it. Aria shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. You can't. Not this time. For a long, painful moment, neither of them moved. The silence between them was thick, filled with everything they'd said and everything they hadn't. Lucien finally spoke, voice trembling with restraint. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Not the file. Not your father. Not you. Her heart cracked a little more. And yet it did. Please. His voice broke completely now. Don't walk away. Aria stared at him, the man who had once made her feel safe, seen, alive. Now all she felt was empty. You had your chance to be honest with me, she said quietly. And you chose silence. He took one last step forward. Because I love you, Aria. That stopped her cold. The words she'd once dreamed of hearing now sounded like a confession. If that's love, she said, then it hurts too much to keep. She brushed past him, tears blurring her vision as she stepped into the hall. He turned, voice desperate, raw. Don't do this, he said. Please. Aria paused in the doorway. I already did. The door shut softly behind her, but to Lucien, it sounded like the end of everything. He stood there for a long time, motionless, surrounded by the silence she left behind. The scent of her lingered, coffee, jasmine, rain. He pressed a hand to his face, feeling something crack inside him. When his phone buzzed, he didn't check who it was before answering. Vivien's voice slid through the line like poison wrapped in silk. Rough morning, darling. Lucien didn't respond. She chuckled softly. I warned you about getting attached. But you never listen. His grip tightened on the phone. What did you say to her? Oh, nothing she didn't deserve to know, Vivien purred. You've been lying to her, Lucien. I simply gave her the courtesy of truth. You twisted it, he hissed. Vivien's laughter was soft and cruel. Call it whatever you like. The way she's gone. And now, maybe you'll finally start thinking clearly again. Lucien ended the call mid-sentence and hurled the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, the sound echoing in the emptiness. He sank to the floor, head in his hands. For once, the man who always had control, who always had a plan, was utterly undone. From her office high above the city, Vivien watched Lucien's name disappear from her screen and smiled. The board would soon meet. The pieces were falling exactly where she wanted them. And with Aria gone, Lucien Sterling was finally alone, just as she'd intended. Chapter 25: Liam's Last Gamble. The bar was nearly empty when Aria walked in. It smelled faintly of whiskey and rain, the kind of night where bad memories settled into the corners like smoke. Liam sat at the counter, nursing a half-empty glass. His tie hung loose around his neck, eyes red-rimmed from sleepless nights. When he saw her reflection in the mirror, his shoulders tensed. Didn't think you'd actually come, he said quietly. I almost didn't. Aria slid onto the stool beside him, keeping her distance. But you said it was important. He gave a dry laugh. Yeah, that's one word for it. For a moment neither spoke. The low hum of jazz filled the silence, soft and tired. Aria stared at him. This man who'd once been her closest friend, her confidant. Now he looked like a stranger wearing Liam's face. I know you're angry, he began. I'm past angry, Aria said, her voice calm but sharp. You leaked my work mistake to the board, didn't you? That wasn't some accident. Liam winced, guilt flickering in his eyes. Vivien made me. Aria scoffed. Vivien makes a lot of people do things, apparently. I didn't have a choice, Aria. His voice cracked on her name. You don't understand. She had me cornered. Debts, threats. If I didn't play along, she would have buried me. So you buried me instead, Aria said bitterly. Liam looked away, his throat working. I thought I could control it. Keep her satisfied, keep you safe. I thought if I just played along long enough, I could fix it before it got too far. And how'd that work out? She asked softly. He didn't answer. The silence said enough. Aria turned to leave, but his hand shot out, catching her wrist. Please, just let me explain everything. He froze. His grip wasn't rough, just desperate. For a second, she saw the friend she used to know, the one who made her laugh on long shifts, who knew how she took her coffee without asking. Then she remembered the look on Lucien's face when she'd walked away from him. The betrayal that had started with a single lie, and how Liam had played his part in keeping it alive. Talk, she said, her voice flat. Liam exhaled, his words tumbling out fast. Vivien came to me weeks ago. She said you were a threat, not just to Lucien but to the entire company. That your father left things behind, things people could kill for. I didn't believe her at first, but then she showed me proof. Documents, transfers, the file. Aria's breath hitched. She showed you the file. He nodded miserably. Said it was classified. That Lucien was keeping it from you for a reason. I thought I was helping you by keeping you away from him. But she used me, Aria. I see that now. Her pulse quickened. Used you how? She wanted you isolated. Confused. So when she made her move against Lucien, you'd be too heartbroken to stand in her way. Aria's eyes hardened. And you helped her. I didn't mean to. His voice rose, trembling with regret. I thought she just wanted to protect the company. But Vivien, she's dangerous. She's been pulling strings since before your father died. That made Aria go still. Before my father, she whispered. What are you talking about? Liam hesitated, realizing too late he'd said too much. I don't know the full story, he said quickly. But I overheard her once. She mentioned a meeting that went wrong. A deal that should have been signed the night before your father's accident. Aria's heart slammed against her ribs. You're saying she was involved? I'm saying she's not just after shares, Aria, Liam said. She's after control. And she'll destroy anyone who stands in her way. For a long moment the world went silent. Then Aria stood abruptly, her stool scraping the floor. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. After everything. Liam's shoulders sagged. Because I can't undo what I've done. But maybe I can stop her before she hurts anyone else. She stared at him, torn between fury and pity. You already helped her destroy the only person who ever. She caught herself swallowing hard. You made sure I lost everything. He nodded slowly. I know. That's why I'm going to make it right. Her voice was soft, brittle. And how do you plan to do that? By exposing her, Liam said. I've been digging through her communications, her private accounts. She's laundering money through a fake subsidiary. If I can prove it, if I can get it to Lucien, it could bring her down. Aria's chest tightened. Liam, she'll kill you if she finds out. He gave a small, broken smile. She already ruined my life. What's left to lose? Later that night, Liam sat in his apartment, the lights dimmed and his laptop open on the table. A folder titled Sterling Confidential blinked back at him. Inside were screenshots, wire transfers, call logs, enough to sink Vivien Sterling's empire if they reached the right hands. He plugged in an encrypted drive, heart racing. Halfway through copying the files, his phone buzzed. Message. Unknown number. Stop digging, Liam. You're out of your depth. He froze. Another message followed seconds later. You had one job. Now you're nothing but a liability. Cold sweat broke down his neck. He looked around the room, the shadows suddenly too deep, the quiet too sharp. He typed a quick message to Aria. If anything happens to me, check the drive. Then the power flickered. Once. The laptop screen went black. A sound echoed from the hallway, the soft click of a door opening. Hello, Liam called, voice trembling. No answer. Just footsteps, slow and deliberate. He backed away from the desk, heart thudding. Vivien, if that's you. The footsteps stopped. Then a woman's voice, smooth as silk. You should have stayed loyal, Liam. Before he could respond, something slammed into him. A blow to the back of the head that sent him sprawling. His last thought before the world went dark was Aria's face, and the flash drive still plugged into the laptop. Across town, Aria's phone buzzed on her nightstand. A message from Liam. Unread. The screen lit up for a moment, then went dark again. And somewhere in the shadows of Sterling Tower, Vivien smiled, pouring herself a glass of wine. Loose ends, she murmured, swirling the crimson liquid, are meant to be cut. Chapter 26. Blood and Shadows. The night was too quiet, too clean, too much like the night her father died. Liam woke to the smell of smoke. For a disoriented second, he thought he was dreaming, the air thick, the alarm blaring somewhere in the distance. But then he saw the flicker of orange crawling under his apartment door and knew this wasn't a dream. Shit! He stumbled out of bed, coughing, grabbing the laptop bag from his desk. Flash drive. He had to get the flash drive. He yanked it from the port, pocketed it, and sprinted toward the door. The knob was hot, too hot. Fire licked up the walls from the hallway. He could see it through the gaps, greedy and alive. Someone had set this. He turned toward the window, heart slamming against his ribs. He was on the 3rd floor. If he jumped, he'd break something, but if he stayed, he'd burn. He didn't have a choice. Liam smashed the window with a chair and climbed onto the ledge. Sirens wailed somewhere far off. The city below looked indifferent, 1,000 lights blinking against the night, unaware of the man hanging by a thread. He took one last look at the flames devouring his life and jumped. The fall knocked the air out of him. He landed hard on a dumpster, pain exploding through his shoulder. He rolled off, groaning, clutching the side of his ribs. But he was alive. Barely. He crawled into the alley, coughing violently. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Message. Lucien Sterling. Next time I won't miss. He stared at the screen, shaking. Then he pulled himself upright, every muscle screaming, and stumbled into the street. There was only one person he could warn. One person still worth saving. Aria opened her door just after dawn. The sight that met her froze her blood. Liam, bruised, burned, clothes half torn, blood running from a cut above his brow, stood swaying in the doorway. "Liam," she gasped. What happened?" He tried to speak but his knees gave out. She caught him before he hit the floor. "Oh my God, sit down just." She dragged him to the couch, fumbling for her phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." He grabbed her wrist, weak but insistent. "No hospitals. She'll find me." Aria stilled. "She." His breathing was ragged, shallow. "Vivien." The name hit like ice water down her spine. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, kneeling beside him. "What did she do?" She came after me." His voice broke. "The fire. It wasn't an accident. It was her." "Why?" Aria whispered. "Why would she?" "Because I found proof." He fumbled in his pocket with trembling fingers, pulling out the flash drive. "Your father's death wasn't an accident, Aria." For a heartbeat, she couldn't process the words. They sounded unreal, like dialogue from someone else's tragedy. "What did you just say?" Liam looked up at her, eyes glassy with pain and shame. "Vivien killed him." Aria's stomach dropped. No, that's impossible. "My father, he died in a crash." "She arranged it," Liam rasped. "A fake negotiation meeting. Your father was supposed to meet her to sign a transfer agreement. But he refused. He told her he'd expose her dealings with offshore accounts." Aria's breath hitched. "You're lying." "I wish I was," Liam whispered. She cut his brakes, Aria. That car crash wasn't fate. It was her way of cleaning up loose ends. The room tilted. Aria staggered to her feet, her pulse thundering in her ears. Her father. Vivien. Lucien's empire. It all started to connect. The sudden silence after her father's death, the unexplained loss of his shares, the way Vivien had slithered into power without question. "No," she said again, voice breaking. "No, you can't. Aria, listen to me." Liam's hand shot out, gripping hers with surprising strength. "You're next. Vivien knows you found the file. She knows you're a threat now." Tears blurred her vision. "How does she even?" "Because I told her," he said softly. Aria froze. He looked wrecked, broken, but the truth was already out. "She made me spy on you," he said hoarsely. "But I swear, I didn't know she'd go this far. I thought she just wanted you gone, not dead." She tore her hand free, voice trembling with rage. "And now you show up to warn me after it's too late." "I'm trying to make it right," he whispered. "Please just take the drive. Get it to Lucien. It's all in there. Every transfer, every shell company, every lie." Her tears burned hot down her cheeks. "You want me to trust Lucien now? The man who's been lying to me since day one." Liam's eyes softened, regret shimmering in the cracks of his expression. "Lucien may have lied to protect himself, but Vivien, she lies to destroy." That made her falter. He pressed the flash drive into her palm, his hand shaking. "You have to end this, Aria. Before she ends you." She stared down at the small device, the weight of everything she'd lost pressing down on her chest. "Why would you risk your life for me now?" she asked quietly. "Because your father saved mine once," he said, barely above a whisper. "He gave me a job when I was nothing. I owed him everything. And I repaid him by helping the woman who killed him." The guilt in his eyes was unbearable. She couldn't look at him anymore. "Get some rest," she said numbly. "We'll figure this out." He gave a weak nod, slumping against the couch. Within minutes, Exhaustion dragged him under. Aria sat there in silence, the flash drive clenched in her fist, her mind spinning. Vivien had killed her father. Lucien had known part of the truth, enough to protect her, but not enough to stop this. And she was next. Hours later, a sleek black car pulled up across the street from Aria's apartment. Lucien Sterling sat inside, immaculate as ever, her eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. She swirled a glass of red wine, her reflection ghosting in the tinted glass. "Did we confirm?" she asked the driver. "Yes, ma'am. He survived the fire." "But barely." Vivien smiled coldly. "Then finish what you started." The driver hesitated. "And the girl?" Vivien's gaze shifted toward the glowing window where Aria sat, her silhouette still. "Not yet. Let her stew in the dark a little longer. Fear makes people sloppy." She took a slow sip of her wine, lips curling. "Besides," she murmured, "it'll be so much sweeter when she realizes her lover's silence was the reason her father died." Liam wakes hours later, realizing Aria is gone, and the flash drive with her. He stumbles to the window just in time to see headlights pulling away from the curb. Vivien's car. He tries to call out, but his voice catches, weak. Down the street, Aria's figure disappears into the night, running not from the truth anymore, but straight toward it. Vivien's words echo somewhere in the dark. "She killed him. You're next." Chapter 27. The air revealed. The boardroom gleamed like a polished weapon. Glass walls, silver accents, and the sterling crest etched into the marble table. It was a place built for power, and this morning the air was thick with it. Aria stood near the door, pulse thrumming beneath her skin. Every face in the room was a stranger to her. Investors, executives, the inner circle of Sterling Corporation. The same people who had whispered her father's name once, and buried it in silence after his death. At the head of the table sat Vivien Sterling, flawless as ever, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Ms. Morgan," Vivien began smoothly, her voice dripping false civility. "Or should I say, Miss Aria Sterling Morgan. You've caused quite a stir lately." Aria met her gaze squarely. "You already knew who I was long before I did." Vivien's expression didn't flicker. "I knew you were ambitious. But I never expected you to steal confidential company property. Breaking into Lucien's private office, taking files that didn't belong to you." "That file belonged to my father," Aria interrupted, voice calm but steady. "And so does part of this company." A low murmur spread through the room. Several board members exchanged glances. Vivien's smile tightened. "Your father sold his shares before his death," she said sweetly. "He had debts." Regretfully, his assets were liquidated. Aria placed the flash drive on the table. "You mean you forged his signature and rerouted the transfers through an offshore account?" That earned a flicker. Just a fraction of a second, but enough to confirm it. "Ms. Morgan," one of the senior board members said cautiously, "that's a serious accusation." Aria nodded. "It is. Which is why I brought proof." She slid a folder across the table, the printouts from Liam's drive. Names, accounts, transfers, all tracing back to Vivien. The silence that followed was suffocating. Vivien leaned back, crossing one leg over the other, pretending to inspect her nails. "Forgery," she said simply. "Anyone with Photoshop and a grudge can fabricate evidence. And she does have a grudge, doesn't she?" Her gaze turned razor-sharp. Heartbroken. Confused. Used by the very man sitting beside her. All eyes turned toward Lucien. He had been silent until now, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the table. But when Vivien's voice dipped lower, the way she savored the word used, something in him snapped. "That's enough," he said, his tone steel. Vivien's brows rose. "Oh, you finally found your voice, Lucien. Perhaps you'd like to tell the board how long you've been keeping your little heir hidden from us." Aria flinched. The words landed like a slap. Not just because they were cruel, but because they were true in part. Lucien had known. He'd tried to protect her, But his silence had cost them both. Lucien stood slowly. The tension in the room coiled around him like static. "You want to talk about deceit," he said. "Let's talk about what you did to her father." Vivien's smirk faltered. "You built this company on betrayal," he continued, voice rising. "You manipulated her father into signing away his legacy and then erased every trace of his ownership. But the digital records remain. I've seen them." Vivien's jaw clenched. "You wouldn't." "I already did," Lucien said, turning to the board. "Every one of you has seen the quarterly reports. Ask yourselves, who's been funneling company funds into untraceable accounts? Who has been bleeding Sterling dry from the inside out?" The murmuring swelled. A few members began checking their tablets, scrolling rapidly through the numbers. Vivien's calm veneer was starting to fracture, tiny visible cracks spreading beneath the surface. Aria stepped forward, her voice firm. "My father, Elias Morgan, was Sterling Corp's co-founder. His 27% share was never legally transferred. That makes me his rightful heir. And I intend to claim it." Hush fell. Vivien rose from her seat, the chair scraping violently against the floor. Her voice trembled, not with fear but fury barely contained. "You dare come into my company and lecture me about ownership? It was never yours," Aria shot back. "You stole it." Vivien's composure shattered completely. "You have no idea what it takes to build an empire. Your father was a dreamer, sentimental, weak. I kept this place alive while he played at morals." Aria's hands curled into fists. "And killed him when he wouldn't play by your rules." Gasps rippled through the room. Lucien's eyes darkened, and for the first time, real fear flickered across Vivien's face. "Watch your tongue," she hissed. "No," Aria said softly, stepping closer. "You've watched enough people suffer in silence. Not anymore." Vivien's breathing quickened, her mask crumbling. She turned to the board, her voice sharp, commanding, almost desperate. "You can't believe her. She's manipulating you, she's the only one telling the truth," Lucien cut in. "We've both seen the evidence. You forged documents, laundered profits, and orchestrated Elias Morgan's death. It's over, Vivien." Vivien stared at him, betrayal flashing in her eyes. "You ungrateful little bastard." Lucien didn't flinch. "Maybe. But not your puppet anymore." The board erupted into chaos, some demanding an investigation, others arguing about control, legality, leadership. Aria barely heard them. She could only hear her pulse pounding in her ears and the faint tremor in her own voice as she turned to Vivien one last time. "This company was my father's dream," she said quietly. "And you turned it into a weapon. I'm taking it back." Vivien's lips curled into something dark, almost inhuman. "You think this is over because you waved a few papers around?" She leaned forward, eyes burning with venom. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." "Maybe not," Aria replied. "But I know what you've already done. And that's enough." The room fell deathly still. Vivien's voice dropped to a hiss, soft, poisonous, like a snake coiling to strike. "If you take what's mine," she whispered, "I'll burn everything to the ground." Her words hung in the air, heavy as ash. Aria met her gaze, unflinching. "Then we'll rise from the ashes." Security escorted Vivien out as chaos reigned behind her. But she didn't resist. She only smiled, a slow, dangerous smile that made Aria's skin crawl. As the elevator doors closed, Vivien's final words echoed in Aria's mind. Not a threat, but a promise. Somewhere deep inside, Aria knew the fire wasn't just metaphorical. Lucien Sterling had just declared war. And Lucien Sterling never lost. Chapter 28. The breaking point. The news broke before sunrise. Aria woke to the sound of her phone vibrating non-stop on the nightstand. Dozens of missed calls. A flood of notifications. Her name trending everywhere. She blinked at the screen in disbelief as her photo filled the headlines. Sterling's secret heir in scandalous affair with CEO. Aria Morgan, the mistress who broke Sterling Corp apart. A sick chill raced through her veins. Every site, every post, every gossip thread carried the same narrative. Twisted pictures of her and Lucien from board meetings, hotel corridors, grainy surveillance footage, all pieced together into something vile. The captions painted her as the manipulative intern who seduced her way into inheritance. Her hands trembled. She couldn't breathe. Then came the photos, doctored but convincing, of her entering Lucien's penthouse, her clothes rumpled, his hand on her waist. And beneath, the words that sliced through her chest. Corporate whore. Her phone slipped from her grip. By the time Lucien arrived, the media was already at Sterling Tower. Cameras lined the street like vultures. Reporters shoved microphones at security guards, shouting her name. He stormed past them, his jaw clenched. Inside the lobby, chaos reigned. Staff whispering, clients calling for explanations, board members already turning on him. He ignored them all and went straight to her apartment. When she opened the door, she looked hollow, pale, sleepless, her eyes rimmed red from tears she refused to let fall. "They did it," she whispered. "They actually did it." Lucien stepped closer, his voice low, rough. "Vivien. It has to be her." Aria let out a broken laugh. "Of course it's her. Who else would destroy me just because she couldn't silence me?" He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "I told you this would happen," she said, her voice trembling. "You knew what she was capable of. Why didn't you stop her?" "I tried," he said, guilt heavy in every word. "I didn't think she'd go this far." "You didn't think," Aria snapped. "That's the problem. You never think I can handle the truth. You keep protecting me until everything explodes." Lucien flinched, but he didn't argue. He knew she was right. By noon, Sterling Corp's PR department released a statement distancing the company from Aria Morgan, a move that only confirmed the rumors. Her inbox filled with hate mail, anonymous threats, and then came the photos of her apartment, taken from the street below. Someone was watching her. She drew the blinds shut, her hands shaking. "I can't stay here." Lucien nodded. "Pack your things. I'll take you somewhere safe." But as he reached for his phone, a message popped up on the screen. An untraceable number. Single photo. Aria's car parked outside. And under it, a small black device with blinking lights. Within minutes, the building was evacuated. The bomb squad arrived. Sirens wailing through the afternoon heat. Aria stood on the sidewalk, trembling, watching from behind the police line. The device turned out to be a tracker, not an explosive, but the message was clear. "We can reach you anywhere." Vivien wasn't just attacking her reputation now. She was attacking her safety. That night, after hours of interrogation and chaos, Aria and Lucien retreated to his penthouse, the only place the media couldn't reach. But even here, the tension was unbearable. Aria sat on the couch, staring out at the skyline, lights blurring through her tears. "She's destroying everything my father built," she whispered. "Everything I fought for." Lucien crouched beside her, voice low. "She's scared. You cornered her in public. Now she's lashing out." "She's not scared," Aria said, shaking her head. "She's calculating. Every move is meant to break me." Lucien wanted to promise she was wrong, but he couldn't. Vivien never made idle threats. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "We'll fight back. We'll prove everything." Her eyes met his, raw and exhausted. "And if she doesn't stop," his jaw tightened, "then I will make her." The words hung between them, dangerous, heavy. Aria looked away, whispering, "Don't make promises you can't keep." The next morning brought more horror. Someone had leaked Aria's private emails, including personal exchanges with her late father. Intimate, vulnerable words twisted into headlines about emotional instability and mental fragility. Vivien was painting her as unfit, unhinged, a girl chasing power she couldn't handle. Aria tried to go to Sterling Tower to face the board again, but security stopped her at the door. "Miss Sterling's orders," they said. You're not allowed on the premises. She's not Sterling, Aria hissed, shoving past them. But they blocked her path. Humiliation burned through her. She turned on her heel and stormed toward her car. Her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. She almost didn't check it. Then she did. It was a live photo. Her, standing in front of Sterling Tower, taken just seconds ago. And a text below it. We warned you. Leave or next time it won't be a tracker. Her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. The world tilted. She stumbled toward the car. Lucien's voice distant, calling her name. The crowd's shouts fading into static. A sharp pain gripped her abdomen. Then another. Her fingers pressed instinctively to her stomach, and she gasped, a flash of terror cutting through the haze. No, no, not now. Lucien caught her just as her knees buckled. Aria! He shouted, holding her as she collapsed against him. The reporter surged forward, cameras flashing, capturing the moment. His arms around her, her face pale, lips trembling, her hands clutching her stomach. Call an ambulance, he roared, his voice breaking. Now! The last thing Aria saw before darkness swallowed her was the chaos. The flashing lights, the crowd closing in, the sound of Lucien's voice cracking as he said her name again and again. Hours later, the hospital corridor was silent. Lucien stood outside the emergency room, hands stained with her blood. He could still hear her faint gasp, still see her fingers shaking. Behind him, his phone vibrated. A new message. No name. No number. Just words that made his skin go cold. You wanted to protect her. You failed. Now it's my turn. B. Chapter 29. The Secret Life. When Aria woke, the world felt muffled, like sound itself was afraid to disturb her. The first thing she saw was white. Sterile walls, bright lights, the faint scent of antiseptic. A monitor beeped softly beside her. She blinked, confused, her throat dry, her chest aching. Then the memories came back like shards of glass. The flashing lights, Lucien shouting her name, the ground rushing up to meet her. And the pain. Her hands moved instinctively to her stomach. A nurse appeared at her bedside, her voice gentle. Ms. Morgan, you're safe now. You fainted outside Sterling Tower. Aria swallowed hard, forcing her voice out. The baby. She didn't even realize she'd said it until the nurse's expression flickered. Pity first, then something softer. Your baby is fine, she said. You're about 8 weeks along. The words landed like a thunderclap. Aria froze. My baby. The nurse smiled faintly, mistaking her shock for joy. Yes, ma'am. You're going to be a mother. Then she was gone, leaving Aria staring at the ceiling, her pulse hammering in her ears. 8 weeks. 8 weeks of confusion, exhaustion, nausea she'd blamed on stress. 8 weeks of loving a man she couldn't trust. Her heart twisted painfully. The timing was cruel, almost poetic in its irony. The one thing that tied her to Lucien forever had arrived at the exact moment she no longer knew who he truly was. Hours later, she was sitting up, staring out the hospital window when the door opened. Lucien stepped in. He looked wrecked. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes hollowed by sleeplessness, his jaw shadowed with stubble. There was blood on his cuff, hers, she realized with a jolt. He stopped a few feet away, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to come closer. Aria, he said softly. She didn't turn. You shouldn't be here. The media's probably camping outside. I don't care, he said. Let them talk. A brittle laugh escaped her. You always say that, until the truth catches up. His shoulders stiffened, but he didn't argue. He took a slow breath. How are you feeling? Alive, she said flatly. Which is more than I can say for Liam. Lucien's eyes darkened. He's alive. The doctors say he'll recover. She nodded once. Silence stretched between them, heavy, aching. Then quietly she said it. I'm pregnant. The words shattered the air like a dropped glass. Lucien went still. His throat worked but no sound came out. Finally he whispered. What? She met his gaze, eyes wide but steady. They ran the test. I'm 8 weeks along. He took a step forward, then another, until he was close enough for her to feel the tremor in his breath. His hand twitched, as if he wanted to reach for her, but she turned her face away. I didn't plan this, she said quietly. I didn't even know. Lucien sank into the chair beside her bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. For a long time neither of them spoke. Finally he said, I'll protect you. Both of you. Aria almost laughed. Protect me? You mean like you protected the truth? Like you protected my father's memory? You lied, Lucien. You hid everything from me. I was trying to keep you safe. From what? Her voice cracked. From your guilt. From your stepmother. From the company that should have been mine all along. He looked up at her then, eyes raw, desperate. You don't understand what Vivien is capable of. The things she's done. I do understand, she snapped. She destroyed my father. She tried to destroy me. And you let her. Lucien flinched. That's not fair. It's true, she said bitterly. And now I'm carrying your child while she's out there plotting the next hit. Her voice broke, the weight of everything, love, fear, betrayal, crushing her chest until it was hard to breathe. Lucien reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing her wrist. Aria, please. Don't shut me out. Her eyes filled, but her tone stayed sharp. I can't trust you. He closed his eyes, pain flickering across his face. Then let me earn it back. For the first time since she'd known him, Lucien looked lost. The confident CEO, the cold strategist, the man who controlled boardrooms and empires. He looked like a man standing in the wreckage of his own choices. He leaned closer, his voice low, trembling. I've made mistakes. Too many. But I swear to you, I didn't know she'd go this far. I thought I could contain her. You can't contain a monster, Lucien, Aria said. You should know that better than anyone. He stared at her for a long time, the silence pulsing between them, thick with things unsaid. Then he whispered, I'll fix this. She shook her head. No. You'll fight her, and she'll strike again. And next time it won't be a scandal or a warning. It'll be blood. His jaw clenched. Then she'll get mine first. That broke something in her. For a moment the anger faded, replaced by the ghost of what they used to be. Two people who wanted to believe in each other, who had once found something real in the middle of chaos. Tears welled in her eyes. You can't keep throwing yourself into fire to save me. He reached for her hand again, this time gripping it tightly. I will, Aria. This time I will not fail you. Something in his voice, the quiet conviction, the rawness, made her chest ache. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But belief had cost her too much already. That night, after Lucien left, Aria lay awake staring at the ceiling, one hand over her stomach. Her world was collapsing around her. Yet inside her something new was growing. Something innocent. Something that might still give her a reason to fight. The thought terrified her. And strengthened her. Because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It wasn't even about love. It was about survival. It was about legacy. And if Vivien thought she could erase the last trace of her father's bloodline, she was wrong. Aria would rise again. Not just as a lover or an heir. But as a mother fighting for her child's future. Outside the hospital, a sleek black car waited at the curb. Vivien sat in the back seat, one gloved hand resting on her phone as she watched Lucien exit through the main doors. Her reflection glimmered in the tinted glass. Composed, elegant, deadly. Pregnant, she murmured, her lips curving into a cold smile. How poetic. She dialed a number, her voice velvet smooth. Phase 3, she said. It's time to finish what I started. The line clicked off. And in the distance, thunder rolled. Chapter 30, Fire and Ashes. Morning broke over the city in shades of steel and gold. Beautiful, deceptive, and cold. For once, Sterling Tower was silent. The glass monument that had always hummed with ambition and greed now felt like a tomb, holding its breath before judgment. Aria stood before its entrance, her reflection caught in the mirrored doors. She looked different, calmer, older, a quiet power in her posture. Her black dress was simple but commanding, the faintest curve of her stomach visible if one looked closely enough. Her hair fell neatly over her shoulders, a reminder that she wasn't the frightened girl who once fetched coffee in this same building. She was her father's daughter, and she had come to reclaim what was his. Inside the boardroom, chaos reigned. Executives whispered, phones buzzed, and the air smelled of fear. Vivien sat at the head of the table, poised as always, a predator disguised in pearls. Her legal team flanked her like an army, but even they looked uneasy. Something in the air had shifted. Then the doors opened. Aria entered, followed by Lucien and Detective Warren, the officer who had quietly reopened her father's case weeks ago. Every eye turned toward her. Vivien's lips curved in amusement. "My dear Aria, you really don't know when to quit, do you?" Aria didn't flinch. "Neither did my father. That's why you had to stop him." For the first time, Vivien's composure cracked, a flicker of surprise before she recovered. "I see the delusions run in the family." Warren stepped forward, dropping a thick folder on the table with a heavy thud. "Delusions don't come with signed statements, Mrs. Sterling," he said evenly. "Or security footage. Or financial transfers from your private account to the man who tampered with Mr. Morgan's brakes." The room went dead silent. Vivien's mask slipped. Aria's voice was steady, cold. "You killed him. You made it look like an accident so you could seize control of Morgan Innovations and bury the merger that would have exposed your fraud." Gasps rippled through the room. The executives exchanged looks, disbelief giving way to horror. Vivien rose slowly, fury simmering beneath her perfect calm. "You dare accuse me of attempted murder, corporate sabotage." Aria's tone sharpened. "Then let's add another. Conspiring to harm Liam Wright, the journalist who got too close to the truth." Detective Warren slid another file forward. "We traced the payment. The same shell company used for both hits." Lucien stepped closer to Vivien, his presence dark and magnetic. "You played us all," he said quietly. "My father, me, Aria, everyone." Vivien's expression hardened. "You wouldn't have your empire without me." Lucien's voice was a blade. "Then it's an empire built on blood." Security entered the room, followed by two uniformed officers. Vivien stood tall as they read her rights, her smile eerily calm. "You think you've won," she murmured, her gaze locked on Aria. "You have no idea what this world does to idealists." Aria met her eyes without blinking. "No, but I know what it does to monsters." The officers led her out, cameras flashing through the glass walls as the press outside erupted. Vivien's empire, built on deceit and destruction, was finally collapsing, piece by piece, lie by lie. As the doors closed behind her, the room exhaled. And for the first time in years, Aria felt the air clear. Later that afternoon, the board convened again, this time without Vivien. Lucien sat beside Aria, not at the head of the table, but one seat away, deliberately. When the vote came to reinstate Morgan Innovations' rightful heir and merge the companies under her leadership, the decision was unanimous. Applause filled the room. Aria didn't smile. She simply nodded, signing her name with quiet grace. Aria Morgan. Her father's name. Her legacy. Her victory. When it was done, Lucien turned to her. "You did it." She looked at him, eyes soft but unreadable. "We did it. But this isn't the end, Lucien. It's the beginning." Outside, rain had started to fall. Soft, cleansing, steady. They stood beneath the glass awning as the city lights flickered against the wet pavement. For a while neither spoke. The silence between them was no longer painful. It was full of things understood. Finally, Aria said quietly, "You could have walked away. You had every reason to." Lucien shook his head. I had one reason to stay. She looked up at him then, the rain catching in her lashes. You can't fix the past, Lucien. I know, he said. But I can build a future that honors it. Her breath caught. There was no grand declaration, no dramatic plea. Just a truth that had weathered every storm between them. She stepped closer, resting her hand lightly over his heart. Then let's start there. He covered her hand with his own, warmth spreading through the cold rain. No more protector and protected. No more secrets. Just two people broken, rebuilding, reborn. Weeks passed. Vivien's trial became the scandal of the decade. Her assets were seized, her allies vanished, and her name, once synonymous with power, became a cautionary tale whispered behind closed doors. From her cell, she refused to speak, her silence more haunting than her crimes. Meanwhile, Aria transformed Morgan Innovations into something new. Sustainable, transparent, visionary. Her father's dream resurrected through her will. Investors returned. So did hope. Lucien stood by her side, not as the man in charge, but as a partner in every sense. He rebuilt Sterling Corp under her leadership, openly acknowledging her as both successor and equal. And every time she entered the boardroom, the room fell quiet, not out of fear but respect. One evening, Aria sat in her father's old office, her office now, watching the sunset reflect on the skyline. The city glowed alive again. Lucien entered quietly, holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider. To Morgan Innovations, he said with a small smile, and to the woman who proved legacy isn't inherited, it's earned. She smiled faintly, taking the glass. And to the man who learned love isn't protection, it's partnership. They clinked glasses, laughter breaking the heaviness that had shadowed them for too long. He knelt beside her chair then, his hand brushing her stomach. Do you think they'll forgive us for the chaos we started in? Aria chuckled softly. Only if we promise them a better story to grow up with. Lucien looked up at her, eyes filled with something softer than she'd ever seen. Peace. Then we'll make one. She reached out, tracing his jaw gently. Together. Epilogue. Months later, the Sterling Tower's top floor bore a new sign. Morgan, Sterling Innovations. The world called it a merger. Those who knew better called it redemption. Aria stood on the balcony during the grand reopening, one hand on the curve of her belly, the other wrapped around Lucien's. Cameras flashed, but she didn't mind. This time she wasn't hiding. Fire and ashes, she murmured, watching the crowd below. That's what it took. Lucien smiled, following her gaze. Sometimes that's what it takes to make something new. She turned toward him, eyes shining in the fading light. Then let it burn, she said. Because from now on we rise. He kissed her forehead, tender, reverent, and the city lights flared around them like embers in the night. Thanks for listening to Lamlam Audiobooks. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes. Until next time, keep listening.